All right, here we are. So what we're going to discuss today is the one thing to fix first when your business is struggling. And I'm going to stay very specifically on that topic. And as we go through the session, I want you to remember that this area detail that I give here is specifically if your business is struggling. So if you if you've just started up and it didn't launch the way that you expected to, if you are going through a crisis, if you are going through a bit of a downturn for whatever reason, any reason that is, or if your business has just never really gotten to where it needs to be and you're sitting at that decision of like, do we continue or do we stop here? This is the one thing that I'd fix. This is also the first thing that we look into when we start working with any of our members. So when we have a new member that signs up with us, we're going to concentrate on this, whether they are succeeding greatly and perfectly and all things are amazing, whether they're maintaining, whether they're going down. Like, this is the first thing that we look at, but we do spend extra time here and really thrash it out specifically if their business is struggling. So let me get up my little slideshow that I have made for you guys, and then let's get going. All right, so here we are. So hopefully you can see this. I'm just going to get it. Yep. Off. And close this too. Here we are. We are also talking specifically in the context of the fitness and wellness industry. This is the businesses and owners and practitioners, coaches that we work uniquely with. So all of our coaching and our advice is in that direction. We're not speaking to sales for every single industry. This is very specific to the fitness and wellness industry. All right. Okay, where are you going? There we go. Sales. That is the number one lever. That is the only thing that matters if your business is struggling. Nothing else matters. I know that your business is probably struggling because that you believe from a subjective point of view, it's retention, it's churn, it's your offer, it's your pricing, it's the gossip, it's the communication, it's your instructors, your coaches leaving, it's the turnover, it's fights with management, it's all of these other things, other factors. But whilst that may be true, we're not going to be able to overcome it if sales is not the foundation and not the thing pushing your business forward. It's the one lever that moves the needle more than any others combined. We look at your business in a holistic sense. So yes, retention is really, really important. Yes, if you focused more on that member that's exiting, you could essentially save that member and not have to make a sale, right? Because your retention is strong. This is true. But if your sales process is lacking, missing, non-existent, if you aren't good at selling, if you hate selling, if no one's looking after it, then nothing's coming in on the other end. So before you think that the problem is somewhere else and the lever to pull is somewhere else, and you need to hop on the new AI trend, the new marketing trend, the new discounting way of discounting, whatever that might be, I would first make sure that sales is a structured, clear, thought out, owned process. That's where we would start. This is what we're going to break down today. So why these 4 and then 5 things? Because in and out of coaching, as a gym owner myself, having owned multiple studios and a wellness studio, having coached people, having observed, being in the industry, observed other people, having my partner who's had his own gym as well. These are the 4 things regarding sales specifically that where it breaks down. So first of all, a lot of boutique studio businesses don't actually have a sales process. That's, what we're talking about today. But we're going to break that down in a little bit more in-depth detail as to what that actually looks like. Now, if you are a member with us already, we would roll out with you an actual sales cycle. We'll go into depth just like that. The complete cycle, this is how it looks. You do your inquiry, you do your NAP, you do your trial, you do your tour, you do your future you do your price point presentation, you do your objections, you do your opposer, and then you close the sale. Like there's a whole sale, there's a whole cycle to it, but I'm not going to go through that today. I'm going to go through specific points about the pillars of the sales and where I see it break down most often for struggling businesses. Let's start with lead management. So the first 2 things that I want to say here about lead management is that, 1, in a struggling business, often we find no one has ownership over sales. It's, the owner will do it from time to time, or we'll just answer phone calls as they come in, or it's the personal trainer's job, but the personal trainer doesn't have an allocated task to it. There's no call activity, not doing call drives, there's no conversions, there's no structure, there's no KPIs, there's no incentives, there's nothing around it. So it's owned by no one. That's the first thing that we see. So we need ownership. We need someone in the business, whether that's a dedicated salesperson, or whether that's a person that has another role within the business, but a part of their role is also ownership over the sales process. That's the number one thing. Absolutely critical for a struggling business. The second thing is management. There needs to be a platform, a spreadsheet, a document, some way of tracking and managing the leads. We would recommend an online platform where you, as soon as lead comes in, whether it be from Facebook ad or like Meta online, cold outreach, referral, or walk-in, whoever it might be, it's logged straight into that platform. And then it goes through a certain funnel or a certain time pipeline. So you know the last time that you contacted them, you know the result of that contact, you know the next time you get a notification of the next time when you need to contact them. If they do come through in the trial, they move through that, so you know that they're now trialing. This is a lead, because if they don't sign up right there and then after the trial, then you need to follow them up. This all needs to be logged and tracked. You need to know when they're being called, how many times they're being called. Very important. So it's called speed to the lead. It's very common. It's moving and changing with AI. Typically in the past, it's been speed to the lead. The lead comes in, you call them like as fast as you can, especially within 24 hours. If you're struggling, you want that definitely to be as fast as you can to making first contact. Nowadays, we also have AI. We've seen great results with AI. They do come with that does come with other problems, like churn will go up if you're using AI, but we had great results with getting leads booked in for a trial before any telephone conversations happen. But it doesn't change the fact that you still need to know how to have a conversation on the phone with someone, because it's still going to happen, or walking into your studio, or at a stand, or a cold outreach. Like, you still need to know how to contact and speak to that lead, which is on the next slide. So we would say, if you're not using AI, it's not for everyone, you need to have 2 to 3 contact attempts a day for the first 3 days. You go hard for the first 3 days. Morning, lunchtime, nighttime, in your peak periods. That's when you're calling them. After 3 days, you can start to revert to text messages or emails or something like that, but you want to try to call them within those first few days. We want a clear owner for every lead. So as I said, there may be one person, you may have a smaller boutique structure and maybe one person looking after all of the leads, or there's other structures you can have, like certain personal trainers who have allocated amount of leads and call activity to be done. But every single lead needs a clear owner. We also typically, I see with the introduction of automated text and AIs, we had lots of overlap happening. So it gets a bit mismanaged in the sense that they'll get an automatic text about a discount that's going on, and then you'll give them a call and you offer them something else, have a different type of conversation, or you say that your prices are this much, but they're like, hey, but I thought there was a discount. So making sure that that is lining up, your manual calls, which are your human touch point, which is still necessary, and your automation. So this is the very first step to tracking and maintaining your leads, knowing where your leads are at, knowing that if the person who is managing the leads not present on a certain day whilst their lead comes in and trials, that the personal trainers and the instructors within the business or the coaches know where this person is sitting and know the conversations that's already been had, or know that the NAP has been filled out and know the next step, so that the lead can actually keep on flowing through the pipeline. The second thing that we see typically in businesses that are struggling is that they are not having the hard conversation and they have no structure to be able to have that hard conversation. So this is what we offer. The framework that we use is the Lego framework. The Lego framework stands for L, location, E, experience, G, goals, and O, opt-in. Why do we have the conversation in this sense and not a script? So we at Sarah, we don't typically rely on a script, we'll rely on this framework. Scripts will fail without rapport. If you can't build rapport with people in a conversation over the phone, at a stand, walking into your studio, then you have a problem. People often avoid the hard conversation, so they will start to talk about their services, what they offer, their pricing, how they've got the latest rollers and the latest screens with the heart tracking devices, and all about them. But in that conversation, at no point are we speaking about the lead. Are we talking about them and what they need? So this framework will help you keep that structure and keep orientated towards them. So we also always ask them about the location, where they live. You want to see the habits of their day. Are they coming to you morning, lunchtime, after work? Are they just playing too far away to go any further, which happens often? Are they coming to you in a time where they're pressed for time and they just want results, or they're coming to you in a time when they're going to be able to hang out for a little bit and they're looking for community? Then you go on to experience. So you're talking about everything in the past that is the person has had regarding this problem, or the reason why they're coming to you, or the reason why they reached out. Maybe they want to lose weight, maybe they want to build muscle, maybe they want to have better flexibility and mobility, maybe they have a chronic health condition that they want to reduce the negative impacts on their life. Maybe they, so many different reasons. You want to ask them all about that. Like, what have you tried in the past? Why did it not work for you? It didn't, because they're here with you today. What could have been done differently? How much pain is it causing you? Like, everything about their experience about this problem, or the health and fitness industry. Then you want to move them through the timeline towards goals. So you start speaking about, so why now? Why are you reaching out to us now? Where do you want to get to? Where do you see yourself in 3 to 6 months' time? If we could really tackle and take this problem away from you? What's your timeline? What would your day-to-day be like if you didn't have this problem anymore, if this had changed? A lot of people, when we do this, they just purely simply have never imagined life without this problem. So they kind of stop in their tracks without this pain or whatever it might be. And they're like, well, I've never really thought about that. And then it opens up to a whole nother conversation that you can start to have with people. This is building rapport. So your E and your G here is really your opportunity to build rapport. From there, you move them forward again. So you're getting future focused. You want to get them to believe that change is possible, and you're setting them up to then speak about, to get them to opt in. So you can see during the leg part of this conversation, we have not spoken about ourselves once. We've only ever spoken about them, and that's what we want. This is how you build rapport. It also allows you to structure the conversation so that you're not dealing with questions like how much does it cost before you've told them the value of it, right? And what you can actually do for them. Or, what's your timetable? It structures it and it helps you lead the conversation so you can get them to where you need them to opt in and actually change their life. And so in between the G and the O is where we then present the services. So I caught an example, according to everything that you've shared with me today and the goals and the timeline that you want to do, our service can help you in XYZ ways. And this is what we offer to get you started. When are you available to come down this afternoon or tomorrow? Which one suits you best? You opt them in. This is the typical framework that we use for the first point of contact. So we're understanding the person, we're building rapport before we're pitching to them. It also allows you to build trust here. It allows you to build, for the sake of the lack of a better word, authority. They see you as someone who can get the results for them. It also allows you to have a conversation around values and not just, I want to lose 5 kilos, but for what reason do you want to lose 5 kilos? You're going to dig a little bit deeper and get the values here. That's a structure to the hard conversation. It also keeps in the green emotional side of why they're wanting to make this change, why they've reached out to you right now, instead of being too logical straight off the bat. So if they're not going to offer up that, it's up to you to lead them through this. They're not going to offer up the emotional side. Some people will, but a majority of people won't. And they're going to stay very logical, like how much does it cost? When's your timetable? And they're just in this red logical way of seeing things. And this is probably why they haven't already solved this problem, because they've stayed very logic about it. And then something else typically that we see is referrals are not asked for at this point, or even when they come in and we have gone through price presentation with them and asked for the referral, or later on down the track. We're staying in sales here. Referrals are when you are struggling and you have, few members or a very small member base. Referrals will be the place that you would want to go to get leads. So there would be conversations around that, which are often not had. Now, the third thing that I would look at and fix regarding sales in a struggling business would be conversion. We typically see that these types of businesses don't have any structure. There is no tracking, there are no numbers, there are no metrics, there's no objective data for them to actually know where their leaky buckets are, where their windows of opportunity are. This is just not something they do. So we work with actual data to be able to log this information on a monthly basis. Sometimes if the businesses are really struggling, it's on a weekly basis. And we can start to see where your conversions are from lead to trial to sign up. And then also to see your percentages of no-shows, of people who, of missed sales, of follow-ups. We can see where that's all sitting. And then instead of just having this subjective viewpoint of, this is the thing that's the problem. No, we can look at the objective data and say, here's your leaky bucket. Let's upskill you here. Let's give you, make you capable here. And then you can specifically zone in to what's happening. So if we can say the conversion rate, for example, of lead to trial is really low, but trial to sale is really high, it means that you need work on it over the phone. You need to have work on that hard conversation that we were just talking about. We need, in that, the first contact needs to be improved. If your conversions from trial to sale are really low, then we can start to see, okay, well, how are you dealing with objections? Are you just entangling with people and saying, yeah, it's really hard. Okay, have a look at our time will get back to us. Or are you leading them out of the problem? Are you offering them the change that they need? And we can start to look at, or is your price presentation not correct? Do we need to do good, better, best, or choice A, choice B? We can start to be very specific about how we're tackling these leaky buckets. But if there's no tracking and we don't know conversion rates, and there's, we don't know anything about what's happening before someone becomes a member, then what can you do about it? Nothing, because you just based on your own subjective data and subjective point of view. And often that point of view is sitting outside of where the actual problem is, because you're so involved in the process. There'll be a big element of stress there. That clarity might be lacking, and in that position, it's going to be the objective data that's going to give us clarity and that we can rely on. When you run a full cycle end to end, you have the Lego, you have the needs assessment, you have the tool, the trial, and the close. You don't skip any of these steps. Okay, and it gives you structure, and you can see how you're converting at each of these steps. Another thing we typically see in struggling businesses is that they have a slew of different options to get started with you. So you can take packs, you can take memberships, you can take weekly or monthly, or you can do this, or you can do that, or you can do 12 months or 6 months, and that's what they give to the person. It creates confusion and overwhelm, often leads to missed sales because people need to think about it. If you want to position yourself with clarity, with authority, with the expert that knows what this person needs and knows your business well, you recommend one option. You can say it's choice A, choice B, and I recommend choice A. Or there's good, better, best, and I recommend for you best. Get very clear in your recommendations. As boutique gym and studio owners, this is a lever that you can definitely pull, because you can adapt the person. Whereas the bigger the studio gets, the bigger the box gets, the less that recommendation really matters, because you can't have that one-on-one contact. But as a personal trainer, as a practitioner, as a small boutique gym, you really can. Like, that recommended option is important. Then we also see typically they will have objections will be dealt with in not the best way. Either, they let them go, they don't deal with the options because they don't know how to deal with objections. They just discount when the person's objection isn't about money. It's because they don't see the value, or it's not meeting their needs, or they don't know how it can meet their goals, or all of these other things, and we end up in discounting. And what happens is that we fall into this discounting slippery slope, where it's going to impact our budget, and we can't get out of it anymore. We just end up discounting all of the time, when that's not what the problem's sitting somewhere else. So you want to really return to the value, build out the value, and add value instead of discounting. Always look to try to add value instead of discounting. Never default. Discounting shouldn't be a default setting. Okay, it's useful if the person if price really is the objection. But that's not always the case. And if you're listening and having the hard conversations, you would realize that as well. Then the fourth thing we typically see with struggling businesses is that they're not following up enough. Now, the follow-up happens because of the missed sale, or because of the missed opt-in. So you have to follow up if they don't opt in on that first contact, and you also have to follow up if you don't make the sale, and they leave with a maybe, and you don't get a no or a yes. It would happen if you don't know how to deal with objections and get clarity for them. So they would say, oh, I need to think about it. If you don't push back with what exactly do you need to think about, just so we can get clear about it, you got to say, okay, no worries, get back to us. And then you follow up, and you're wasting time because they're actually not interested, but they don't want to say no, and you don't know, and no one knows. So you're calling and when you could have just gotten the no if you dealt with the objection correctly. That's one side of the following up, where you're just wasting time. The second side is that most businesses stop chasing actually really good leads after the first or second attempt, and they're just leaving the leads on the table and they go cold. We see in our business, follow-up attempts will be 8 to 10 times before they get started with us. So 1 or 2 is really not enough. And sometimes there's 1 or 2 attempts are call attempts. They haven't even spoken to them on the phone. So if ever you're in doubt as to whether the person is still a possible lead, call them. And then you want to continue tracking the missed sale as well. So and if you're dealing with objections correctly, they're going to be saying, oh, I got to get my doctor's approval first. Okay, when's your doctor appointment? I'll call you the next day. And set a reminder in your platform to call them the next day. Or I've, when my baby's a little bit older, oh, when do you feel that your baby would be an okay age? Oh, when she's 6 months old. Okay, so you set the thing, because you had that conversation, you know how old the baby is, and you call them in 3 months' time. Or they say, I just signed up with the gym down the road. Okay, sure. And you know to call them in 2 to 3 months' time when they've had the experience with the gym and they've either integrated really well or it's not the right fit for them. Whatever it might be, there needs to be a follow-up system in place so that you know exactly when you're calling these people back. Then you also want to be revisiting cold or old leads on a scheduled basis so that you don't know how their journey has gone after you or without you. It always pays to give them a call and follow them up. Now, if we get a little bit deeper into the layer underneath this, there are reasons why, if you put all of this in place above, some of it still won't stick. Or even if you don't have a sales cycle, the reason why some of this isn't sticking, let's have a talk about that. So the first one would be the system. It won't stick if it's relying on just you, or it's relying on the person and not a system. It's relying on the mood of the person. It's relying on the time availability of the person. It's relying on their relationship with sales or how they feel in the moment. Sales has to become a part of business, as is invoicing, as is balancing the till, as is scheduling your trainers. It's the same time blocking, it's the same importance, it's the same system. You've got systems for all of those things. It's the same thing with sales. You have to name an owner for every stage. If it's not one owner for all of it, but you need to have someone, if it's not the same person, responsible for lead contact, booking, close, follow-up. Turn it into a system. Have it linked to incentives, KPIs, specific time blocks in your week, call drives at specific times. It's not about how you feel or a person. It's just like the rest of business. The second reason why it won't stick is because of the numbers. So a lot of owner operators will, say things like sales feels slow. Well, so it doesn't matter how it feels. We need to be tracking it. Track the leak weekly, like track what's actually going on, so you can fix your conversions. We want to make it want to be very numbers based, metrics based when it comes to selling. And the third and probably the biggest, which I won't go into detail today, but will definitely, if as a member with us, it's because there's a belief. So you could insert all of the techniques, tactics, and tools around sales, and it's still not work because underneath, so if you have done that and your business is still struggling, there's a belief underneath. So I've seen in instances where I've kind of really dug into this, where an owner is using all of a sales cycle and all of the rest, but there's a deep belief that they're not convinced that the service is worth it. Well, of course the rest isn't gonna work because you don't believe in what you're selling, or there is a deep belief that sales is manipulation. Well, of course it's not going to work. So I'd look behind your belief of your offer, what you truly believe it's worth, and also what you believe about sales. Get down to the belief. And so this person would on the phone, wouldn't deal with objections because didn't believe that it was actually worth it. So that came through in just the way that they spoke. Another person, for example, was afraid of rejection, so would not go to the opt-in and try and close because they were afraid of getting rejected. Now, rejection is a very personal trigger, about a belief, deep, got nothing to do with sales, deep within the person. So that's another belief that's coming out and impacting your capacity to sell. So we would look into that, and if you have negative belief around sales or in your business in general, I really identify what that is, be honest about it so that you can actually correct. And there's lots of ways that we can correct it, which I can't get into now, but the first thing to do would be to name that belief to get to the root of it. So sales is the number one thing that I would fix if your gym or studio is struggling. Breaking that down, lead management, having the hard conversation, conversion and tracking numbers, following up enough, and then looking a bit under the hood of the systems that are put in place, the tracking that's happening, and your belief around sales. We here at Sarah obviously start with sales as a beginning point in our coaching with our members when they come on board. We review that process. We make sure there is one in place. We make sure that it's streamlined. We do upskilling and role playing to check if it's where it should be, but then we also stem out from there to have a holistic view of your business. So we do look at your retention, your churn, your revenue, your member number. We project out to see what your earning potential is. We set goals with you, so we go a lot deeper and a lot further into this, and there's all things that we can look at after this problem is fixed first. If that is of interest to you, we offer a strategy call to have a look into your business. If you haven't got a sales cycle implemented and this has triggered you to think, oh, this is something I need to really get this together, that we can have just a one-off call to get that implemented into your business. Otherwise, we can work in a more of a membership, long-term style with you to tackle everything that comes after this step. So thanks for being with me today. If you have any questions, just reach out to us on social media or through our website. We're here for that. And I hope you've gotten something out of it. I hope if sales isn't a focus, it's not a system, it's not an essential part of your business right now, that it becomes one. Good luck, and I will see you on the other side.